think we can take pictures.
Yeah.
When editing the project, if you go to QuickTime and screen record the whole thing.
This is the video of us debating whether we're going to make the video about documenting our process, which is a video.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
Making sense? Yeah? Alright.
Yeah, video would be too much to...
What did you like about that piece and why?
I really liked the music selection.
The sense of heaviness.
The quality of the filming, it felt really professional.
The shot where you were revolving around him and the background was all blurred.
But because you were rotating around him and he wasn't the one moving, he stayed clear while everything else around him was blurred.
The inspiration really came from a field trip that we went on down in Portland. Students really started to question what is art, is intent needed to make a piece of art, and that's what really sparked our idea of this film.
Our goal was to set out and create a piece that was aesthetically pleasing. We did this by messing with exposure, different aperture sizes, frame rate, motion blur, image stabilization, color correction schemes, things like that. We did this all to create a piece that was pleasing to the eye.
Also, as a side note, I did like the connection between BC's shirt and the color of the ball.
It wasn't my shirt.
And what about the piece did you dislike, and of course why?
There was certain parts of the ball bouncing, particularly a part where it was down the staircase, where it would bounce up and slow down, and then bounce up again fast and slow down. I thought that was a little bit redundant.
There's a lot of hesitation at the end.
I wasn't too favorable about the chair. I just didn't like the chair.
I didn't like how it ended, and I was wondering, like, well, why did he pick up the ball? What was the point? Like, what was the meaning behind that?
I didn't really understand what the intent of it was.
Our purpose was to provoke the question, what is art? Is a piece that is simply aesthetically pleasing, is that art? Or does there need to be something more behind it to make it art?
So a lot of us went into this project with some preconceptions about how this was going to turn out. I know I, for one, thought that a lot of people, especially artists, were going to read different intentions into this project when there was none.
I feel like it's kind of supposed to remind you of childhood almost.
It was a really, like, nostalgic, interesting piece, and it brought on a lot of feeling.
I felt generally at ease. I was contented.
I felt a little anxiety for the ball. I mean, he was going through some rough times. I just hoped he made it through it okay. So, and he did.
The response we got was actually very mixed. A lot of people found that they did find intents in it, like, for instance, coming of age, childhood, memories, all that kind of stuff, dream sequences. But a lot of people actually didn't find any sort of intent in this, and that was actually a frequent criticism that we got with our project.
What do you feel was the art piece's intent?
That question is not so easy.
What do you feel was the actual intent of that art piece?
I didn't figure that one out, actually.
That's a good question.
What is the intent of art? And does art have to have a purpose behind the creator, or can it be considered art simply because the audience feels that there's an intent behind it?
I feel that the intent was to invoke kind of a calming, more relaxed feel, but like I said before, to remind you of childhood.
I was thinking, like, kicking away your problems and then realizing that you can't just run away from your problems. You're just gonna have to face them eventually.
There are so many things that that piece could stand for, and that's really kind of comforting to know in a way, because you're like, I could be right, and if I'm not right, that's what I got out of it.
You know, I don't know what the intent was, but I do think audience interpretation is equally valid to artistic intent. True art schooler. For me, my interpretation had to do with seeing the ball as a metaphor for life and how we think about living our life.
I think the red ball was trying to symbolize something coming back to you, like you're letting it go and then it's coming back to you.
It makes people think, and I think that's why it's a successful piece of art in my mind.
It's about asking each individual audience member the question, what is art? That is our intent. Our intent is to instill that curiosity in people, to make them say, what is the intent? To make them look for the intent themselves.
What is art? Boy, that's a question we do deal with a lot. I think art, for me, is something where a person creates something with an intent to get a reaction from either someone or themselves.
Putting words and titles on the things that link us as a human being, you know.
Anything that provokes, which is probably like an intention of possibly this piece. I imagine this piece has got to have some sort of intent, you know, a reason to make it. You always have a reason to make something, even if it's just because I could.
Art, to me, has intent. Something can be, you know, beautiful, but there is an intent for me in the creation aspect that may or may not be entertaining or aesthetically pleasing.
In the end, any kind of art form, I feel like people should think. It shouldn't be straight out in the open. I mean, people always say, you know, crumpled piece of paper, like, if I do this, is that art? Well, it could be, for sure. You have the idea to crumple the piece of paper. Afterwards, people are going to be left thinking, why did you do that? What was the reason for that? Why did that happen? And maybe it's a 4-year-old boy who just wants to crumple a piece of paper because it sounds cool, or it's a legitimate artist who decides to crumple a piece of paper and put it in a gallery to have people reconsider what is art.